Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Endless Race podcast. And today I have the immense pleasure of sitting down with none other than DJ Larizzle. He's an international DJ that has collaborated with many talented artists from Nas, Neo, Stormzy, and Wizkid, and many, many more. But without further ado, Larry, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Marius. Beautiful intro as well.
Yeah, no, I try to, big guest, so big guest. Before, like I said, I mentioned before, my uncle's going to get onto me if we don't sponsor him. So the trim is looking sharp.
Thank you.
If you want to let the people know, just a cheeky plug.
Slicksville Barbers, South Croydon. Check them out. My boys Mario, George, Mitch. Great guys, great barbers. Check them out.
That's it. So Uncle, I hope you're happy now. So I was listening to, when I was doing some research on you, I was listening to, like we mentioned before, you were a presenter, or you used to be on, was it BBC One Extra?
Yeah,
or?
So I did prior to that, I did sort of some underground radio stations. There was an online station based in Enfield. That was my very first station. It was called fatbeats.net. So it was like an internet radio station with a visual as well.
Yeah.
Live mixing and whatnot. I did that for a while, but the drive up from South London it would always take me 2 hours going in the daytime.
For how long of a set?
For a 2-hour set. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And then from there I joined a pretty legendary pirate station called Deja Vu FM. They're based in East London. A lot of the grime legends were on that station back in its heyday. Yeah, the Dizzy Rascals and DJs like Marcus Nasty, etc. So I was on there for a bit as well. Then thelightfm.com, which was another internet-based radio station. They had, they were also like a legendary pirate station back in the day.
Okay.
For South London during the garage era in particular. So I was with those stations, and then I got the opportunity to do piloting on One Extra.
Okay, and piloting, we mean?
Piloting is basically doing an offline radio show.
Okay.
So, doing everything as if it was, broadcasted live. But then it would just be you and the producer doing the show, and then it would be sent to the to management for them to review. Okay. See if they like you as a presenter, and then sort of slot you in.
Okay.
So I was piloting for about 4 or 5 months or so, sort of waiting. But what tends to happen with such stations is there's a lot of piloting going on. You're sort of placed on the shelf. They review, and then they come back to see if they like you. So it's like a bit of a selection process.
Okay.
And at that time, it was sort of a time where they were sort of keen on getting more female presenters on the station. So I had to wait a fair bit. But in the meantime, I did a lot of guest mixes over the years. This was back in sort of 2011. And it's years and years of guest mixes, even still to this day. But yeah.
Did you get paid for those?
No.
The piloting?
Piloting, no. It's off your own back.
Okay.
Guest mixes, the initial guest mixes weren't paid, but the more recent ones that I started doing as of 2021, those were paid.
Okay.
So an hour long.
And would you say, is that a way to get into the space, doing this? I wouldn't say could you class that as voluntary work? Not necessarily. Not getting paid, essentially.
Yeah, it is essentially voluntary work, because you're going there to you're going to work, essentially.
Yeah.
You're going to create a whole radio show. So you've got to come with an idea. You've got to come with a theme for your show. The music you have lined up for the show to play that, and then sort of wait, essentially. But the guest mixes, again, that's your time mixing at home or in the studio you hire out.
Okay.
Send that through to them. They'll air it on one of their main presenters' shows. And it was a bit of voluntary work, but
interesting. I
suppose it all helped. It helped the DJing side as well.
Sure.
It gave that exposure.
Also, I heard about what were storm parties. This was, I don't know how long the episode, the radio was, but I think it was 6 or 7 years ago.
Yes.
I was saying, let me ask Larry what storm parties were, because I know it was like a group of you. Or?
Yeah. So it was a collective. It was a friend of mine, called Cyril, who we went to school with, still a very good friend of mine. he started this. No, he didn't start it. Him and a few other guys, friends of mine, Super, Mensa, and Ramsey. They're in this collective called Storm Riders.
Okay.
Cyril joined as a photographer, a club photographer. Club photography was sort of quite niche, but then it became very popularized around that time, and he was like it within our sort of urban music scene. He was quite popular in a lot of the main parties, taking pictures, which would then go on Facebook and other social platforms. And so he made the wider group, as it were, with Storm Riders and himself, Storm Parties.
Yeah.
Then he thought, expand that further, get other DJs in and to join and stuff as well. So myself, I forgot Lazy Dooley, who was another DJ for Storm Riders. Then I joined as a DJ, and I came under the umbrella of Storm Parties. Okay. So we all sort of did a lot of events together, DJ bookings, etc. And then around that time as well, during the UK Funky era, Ramsey was the MC of the group, the MC and the host. And he sort of rose to prominence as well with a lot of his catchy UK funky phrases in the clubs and things.
Yeah. So that is that still about, or that was now?
Yeah.
It's not really anymore.
It's not really as prominent, but there's still, stations like Rinse FM still sort of champion it pretty well. And there's still quite some cool events that incorporate UK funky. Now, like Boiler Room as well is another cool platform that do it very well as well. So it's not as big as it was.
All right.
Yeah.
And then in your opinion, as a DJ, what do you think the most important role is today at being a DJ?
Being a tastemaker, really. Okay. Not being afraid to play. I know it's all good to engage the crowd and to play popular music that everyone knows, but it's not being afraid to be a tastemaker and play new music. Yeah. To introduce audiences to new music, new sounds. I feel that's very key because it helps grow scenes, grow movements, and it's very, very crucial, I'd say. Okay.
And would you say, being a DJ, you have to be quite creative, like you said?
Yeah.
Introducing new music to people can, there's that element of, are people going to like it? Are people going to not listen to me anymore? Yeah. Is it possible for you to be more creative as a DJ? And how would you go about being more creative?
It's an interesting question. I mean, there's always ways. There's always ways to be, I suppose, more creative. You can get complacent with, if you're doing like multiple sets, for instance, you can get complacent with always replicating sets, for instance. Yeah. Shine away, like you said, for playing new music, but I feel it's key to always to try and test yourself, put yourself out of your comfort zone. Try things that, may not necessarily seem like would work together, but it can actually work together quite nicely. Okay. Like an a cappella over a pop-up a cappella over a trap instrumental, for instance. Trying different things, and especially with the era of TikTok, I feel like that's really helped DJs be more creative. Okay. And TikTok has a way of just blowing you up if you stumble across something that resonates.
Yeah, and is that a good way that you produce a beat or a sample and people use that? Have you had that experience where you've produced something and a video has gone viral and it's drawn a lot of traffic towards you?
Actually, one of my early instrumentals when I started producing music sort of did that, actually. Okay. It was one of my early beats. I believe it was I'ma Play. It was my very first beat, actually. And there was this event just as we were coming out of lockdown for Skepta. He had a Nike collaboration with one of his new football boots that he did with them. So there was an outdoor AstroTurf football tournament. And there was music, and I was one of the DJs, and I thought, going back to what we were saying earlier, I thought, let me try, my new track is very new. Yeah. I've just put it out, like no one knows me as a producer, let me just play it. And, lo and behold, like a lot of the influencers that were there were dancing to it. And then, it was recorded, it was put on GRM Daily, and then, drove a lot of traction to the track.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Staying on the topic of creativity, what do you think is the right goal for creativity? And like, how does fear and failure play a role in creativity, in being creative, shall I say?
What's the role?
Yeah, what's the role of like fear and failure in being creative? Do you think there is one? Like you said, going back to what you said, is there a fear that being so creative that you want to change the scene, be unique, that can cause a negative effect on your DJing? If that makes sense?
Yeah, yes, I suppose it can. But the good thing with DJing is like no one will, you won't be cancelled as such if you did something that didn't work out in a set.
Yeah.
You tried something, it didn't quite work, or you clanged, which is when you try and mix two tracks together and it just sounds like sounds like mess, basically.
Okay.
It's not really, it's not like the cancel culture that the cancel culture that we have now. And, if you do something on socials and you instantly sort of cancel. In the club setting, you have freedom. You have more freedom to create, to try things. If it doesn't work out, it's fine. On to the next set. You learn from what went wrong there. And I feel like there's not so much that pressure to fail. Well, I suppose there is. It depends on the booking as well. If it's like a festival set, you don't want to mess up. You probably are more inclined to prepare your set beforehand, which I tend to do if it's a bigger set. But mainly if it's a club set, I go and freestyle, try new things. Yeah.
And is that based off the audience? Like
based off the audience.
How do you interact with your audience?
So I'm on I feel like the last few years I've been doing a lot more mic work. I'm a lot more hosting to vocally engage with them as well. And reading the crowd as I play music. So seeing how they respond to certain tracks. If it goes well, then, stay along that path a bit longer. Then maybe try something new. If that doesn't work, then, maintain that original path. Or if that does work, then veer off to the
other tracks.
The other tracks that you...
Yeah, I mean, whenever there's a good DJ, there's nothing better than getting drunk and having a good DJ. Because, we've gone to some clubs and DJs are just absolutely terrible. Yeah. So...
That's another thing on the whole freedom thing as well, especially in nightclubs. A lot of people are drunk, so they won't remember. They don't
remember, yeah.
I mean, unless you were completely awful the whole set, but if you tried something, it didn't work out, you're like, you can recover.
Okay. Have you had some of those experiences?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've had, so many mares. And because I use my laptop to DJ and I use a software called Serato, I've had many instances where there's been a computer crash or one of the cables have failed and it's caused the deck to cut out. And so
but is that out of your control though?
It is. But you can sort of, avoid those instances by making sure the software is up to date. Having a laptop that's fast enough. I've recently bought a new one just to make sure I can handle the new, because the Serato software updates itself all the time. There's always updates coming out, and there's a really cool feature now called stems, which requires a lot of processing power from the laptop.
So you would say you need a decent laptop to do...
Yeah, but a lot of DJs now as well just use USBs, because a lot of the decks in clubs are Pioneer decks, which are, the DJ decks that have USB slots. Okay. You can plug the USB in and... have all your music there and then play it that way as well. I do that sometimes, but I prefer Serato because it has my entire library. There's only so much I can cram onto a USB.
Yeah. And then excluding your laptop, what is one equipment as being a DJ that you just can't live without?
Excluding my laptop?
Yeah, so you have the laptop with you. That's not included. What is one piece of equipment? Because I know there's a few different bits of equipment that you use, don't you?
Yeah, so there's your headphones. That's pretty crucial. I used to use the standard, 2-ear headphones, but now I've changed to like a lollipop one. Okay. But there's one piece of kit, my mic actually, it's a Sennheiser mic I've had since, I want to say 2006. Yeah. And I've never lost out. It's always with me. just in case.
Okay.
Like most clubs and things, they have mics, but just in case. There's been instances there's no mic and I'm needing a mic at last minute. I've had that with me, and it's yeah.
So that is the one thing you can't
That's the
live
one
without.
thing. Yeah, I've had for coming up to what, 18 years, 17 years.
And if I ask, why would you say that's the most important thing for you? Because of you're moving towards more hosting now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it's become more and more. Back then it was just sort of in my bag, gathering dust. I didn't host every set. It was every so often. But now I feel like, I talk a lot more. Yeah. I need it there. That's that, that comfort.
Yeah. You're a man of many accomplishments.
Thank you.
What would you say is your most significant moment of being a DJ?
As a DJ,
or a milestone in your journey that you're like proud to say, you know what, I did that.
There's been a few, but one that resonates with me more now that's come straight to mind is my a DJ set I got with Nike.
Nice.
And it was for the late Virgil Abloh's Off-White and Nike collab.
Mm-hmm.
He did a party at the Oval Space in East London to celebrate, and he put me as a sub headline. Like, I'd never met him before. He got in touch with, I think a colleague made him aware of me. His team got in touch with my agent at the time.
Yeah.
And agent said, it's Virgil Abloh really wants to book you for his Nike collab event. I was like, wow, I didn't know Virgil at the time.
Yeah.
And then I looked into him and did some research and realized, what an innovator he was becoming, with his Off-White brand, and then, doing this whole Nike Off-White collaboration. And then, he wanted me to play, and then he gifted me a pair of Off-White Nike trainers as well, which was incredible, which I still have and cherish and try and wear on special occasions. And I DJ'd. It was a packed event. Must have been like 1,000 people there. I DJ'd just before he came on with Benji B. They did sort of a back-to-back. The set went really well. He came on, he gave me props, we took a picture together. It was just such a cool guy. And then obviously from there, the level he reached as a fashion designer, as an innovator, as a creative, the work with Louis Vuitton, and then obviously him sadly passing, it just meant so much more that I had that moment with him to share the decks with him before he sadly left us. So.
And would you say that you've got a lot of moments with the artists that you've worked with, like real wholesome moments? Because whenever I think of like working with celebrities and stuff, I just think there must be so much wholesome moments that you get.
Yeah.
Like after a set, you're drinking with them or whatever, and they're just giving you advice.
Yeah.
Say, for example, you ask them a question. I just think, I don't know, is that a reality? Is that what happens?
Yeah.
Like, have the artists that you worked with given you some real good advice?
They have over the years. I think back to Nas and Damian Marley, actually, when they came, when they were doing the tour together, I think they released an album, didn't they? They were over here, I played at their after party, and I think it was Damian Marley that was just like, they were just both, it was just so surreal, it was an intimate after party event. Yeah. They both came in, they were both vibing, they were both, friendly. They came, I spoke a bit with Damian Marley, and he was like, yo, brother, in his Jamaican accent. It's like, keep doing what you're doing, man. This is very, you're sick, man. And it was just great. It was just great. Chilled with him, spoke with him a bit, and yeah.
So in the same breath of the success, failures, what would you say is some of your biggest failures as being a DJ, and the lessons, kind of like the valuable lessons that you've learned from those failures?
Failures. Let's think.
Yeah, it's quite a broad question.
Yeah. I suppose one failure is sort of people that I worked with and or trusted. There was like someone I sort of recruited onto my team some time ago that I sort of trusted to help and support my growth as a DJ. And you know, it turns out I felt like I gave them maybe a bit too much trust, because it turned out later on that they wanted to, you know, they had their own intentions in terms of bettering themselves as a person within the music industry. So I suppose one failure would be trusting them as much as I did, but it was a lesson learned at the same time. And from that moment, I've kept things a lot closer to home in terms of my management, who is my wife as well, and who's an incredible manager, and human being, and my ride or die.
Yeah, it's wholesome.
Very wholesome.
What was I going to ask? When it comes to getting work for DJing, do people just approach you in terms of like whether that be a celebrity or a club or an event? Do they just reach out to you? Do you have a team that you work with, or is it just literally you and your wife?
It's me and my wife now. I had an agent before, but I found it was just much more better, and things could get I'm a bit OCD in the sense of just wanting things done quickly. So it's just essentially me and my wife now. Emails come through to us, we both review, reply, and handle the bookings ourselves pretty much.
You're able to manage it? Is that all right?
At the moment, yeah. At the moment. But yeah, we're managing pretty well, and it's getting busy for my wife now as well, because she manages. She started managing other artists as well. So yeah, she's got her hands full. But then that's not all that she does. She's a psychotherapist and coach, and and you know, she runs a charity as well for children in Uganda, which I help her with.
Good stuff.
So,
yeah, it's good to hear.
Yeah.
What's one thing people don't know about DJs? What's one thing that you could say, maybe on a personal level or just in the industry itself? What's one thing that is not really talked about in the industry, or people don't know about, that will think, oh my God, wow, Larry, that actually happens in the industry?
Yeah.
Without getting yourself in trouble.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, what can I say? That's... I have to think on that
I don't want to get you in trouble. You can say it on a personal level if you want, instead of the industry itself.
Yeah. What have I come across? I don't know. I don't know if this is known, but some DJs are divas.
Divas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some DJs can be divas. I've come across a few over the years. I'm just like, wow, okay. So you're really like this, you know, demanding, you know, say a DJ is coming to the end of their set, you know, they'll say like, oh, don't play this track because I'm going to play it. Move off quickly so I can quickly come in and do my set sort of thing. Even if your set's not finished yet, they'll come in sort of hovering around you, waiting, obviously almost like applying that pressure without saying anything, just being in your personal space, waiting for you to finish. That could just be, which can obviously be really off-putting.
Yeah.
And yeah, I suppose, yeah, they can. A few can be divas. I don't know how known that is, or
I wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
I mean, it all depends on the persona that they give off.
Yeah,
like on social media and stuff like that.
That as well.
You probably wouldn't expect, you know.
Yeah, there's some you wouldn't expect.
Actually, like work with them
exactly,
or next to them.
Exactly. Yeah, and there are a few that have surprised me. I'm just like, wow.
Okay.
You seem so humble.
Yeah, but you're
not.
Yeah. So how does it work in terms of, do you get a set time when you're DJing?
Typically you do, yeah.
Yeah, and how long can they typically last?
Anything from the shortest I've ever had is half an hour.
Okay.
That was back in the day, actually, during what they called a uni rave era in the urban music scene, when there were a lot of parties in across the countries where unis would get coaches up, and then they'll link up in a venue in one city of a uni, and then they'll all party, and then they'll get their coaches back to their uni.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
I don't think they do that anymore.
No, they don't.
Yeah, it was really big.
That's wicked.
Yeah, it was really cool. But then with that came a lineup of about 50 DJs.
Oh, dear.
In across 3 rooms, every DJ has like half an hour, and it's just like, you can't really make an impact with half an hour. So I prefer the longer sets. The longest set I've ever done was about 9 hours.
Ooh, that's not. Is that all in one?
All in one.
No break. You get break on.
No break.
Wow. Was that a
9
festival? Or?
This was at at West End Club in Leicester Square. It's not there anymore. It's called Club
Who's
Metro.
partying for 9 hours?
Literally, it was a New Year's Eve.
Okay, fairs.
So it started at like 8 p.m. and ended, what would it have been? Like, it'd been like 4 a.m. or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah, non-stop. And after that, I was like, okay, yeah, that's too much. I can't go as long.
Yeah.
But I'd say my maximum now is probably about 7.
Still a long time.
It's a long time. It's a long time. But
I mean, obviously you can correct me, but it must, requires a lot of concentration, right?
yeah.
To make sure the crowd is happy,
Yep.
what you're playing is correct,
Yep.
nothing's effing up
Yep.
technologically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it must be quite demanding when you're up there.
Your best friend, though, in a club is alcohol. When it gets to the point where everyone is intoxicated.
Yeah. On their end, not your end.
On their end. Not mine. Not mine. On their end. So, they don't sort of realize as much. So you can play a song a bit longer, give yourself more time, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because in that early period, especially before midnight on a New Year's Eve party, you've got to be on the ball, make sure everyone's, revving up towards, the crescendo that is midnight. And then from there, like another couple of hours of keeping the party going. And then from there, it's like you have a bit more freedom, you can be a bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
In your selections, in the duration you play a song for.
Okay.
And that sort of thing.
You mentioned about when you prepare your songs or you prepare your deck.
Yeah.
You could just call it a deck? Would you call it a set?
Set.
Okay. So when you prepare your set, how long does that usually take? Like say for example, you're performing for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And you're preparing a set. How long would that usually take you?
It wouldn't take me that long. For a set of 2 hours, it typically wouldn't be it would typically be sort of a club set or club set or brand event. It will never be a festival set for 2 hours. Typically a festival set, you're playing maximum an hour.
Okay.
So prep for a 2 hour set, like I said, I like to freestyle a lot. So I'll probably just make a folder. With Serato, you can create crates.
Okay.
Where you sort of, populate a crate with the songs you want to play. So I'll probably just sort of put in a few songs that I'm like, okay, I want to play this during the set. Could take anything from 10 to 15, 20 minutes to do that. If it's sort of a festival set of like an hour, then it'll probably take me about, I don't know, maybe about an hour, making sure I have every track that I want to play and how I want to mix it in and that sort of thing. Yeah. And
have you gotten to a point where you kind of know what you're going to play? Like, obviously, I know probably when you started your journey, it took you a while to think, okay, what songs am I going to mix into, etc. Now is at a point where it's kind of like second nature for you. Like, if you play this song, I know that people vibe with this song next. Yeah. It's become second nature. Okay. Now. It's become second nature. Like yesterday, for instance, I played a set for Wizkid at a roller skating rink venue called Flippers in White City in West London. And I already sort of knew what I wanted to do, but I always like to get to an event at least half hour, 45 minutes before I play, just to take in the DJ before me, their set, what they've played, so I don't replicate too many tracks they've played or any tracks they've played. And then from there, just go for it, really. I know, obviously, it's Wizkid. He's an Afrobeat artist. I know it's going to be down the African music route, whether it's African electronic music or Afrobeats. So, and I've thrown a bit of hip hop and R&B in there as well. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Going back to when another DJ is performing, do you ever feel like the music that you're producing or you're going to be doing on your set is completely different to what they're doing? And like, have you ever been in a situation where they're playing hip hop and R&B, but your set is all amapiano? Yeah. Has that gone well for you? Has it? It has, because a lot of those events have been events that I say the partygoers are used to, where they're expecting a bit of R&B, hip hop, a bit of
dancehall, bashment, a bit of Afrobeats, and a piano anyway.
Yep.
So there have been many instances where someone's playing hip hop R&B, and I know I've got to play an Afrobeat. I'm a piano set, so it's like, okay, hope this crowd takes to it.
Yeah.
I don't really know, but then they've usually sort of gone well, because I know I sort of have like a more commercial Afrobeat pot, and I have more of a deeper, more underground pot as well.
Okay.
So it's almost like testing the waters with both. So I'd maybe start off with a commercial track that everyone knows, see how they respond to it. If they respond well, then, maybe throw in another one and then go to this deeper pot. If I start to lose them a little bit, then, stick with the sort of commercial side of things as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
From a DJing aspect, so you've been doing DJing for how long now?
17 years now.
Wow, 17 years.
Yeah.
So how has it changed from 17 years ago to now? Do you prefer it now, or did you prefer it back in the old days, many moons ago? Or
there's pros and cons.
Has it changed much?
It has changed a lot.
Yeah.
The equipment, for one. When I initially started, I learnt off vinyl.
Okay.
So I learned, and it was UK garage music as well that I learned. So I learned to mix vinyl. Vinyl is very hard to mix off. And I love that, it took so much to learn how to use vinyl. And that's why I pay so much respect to the legendary DJs of the past that still use vinyl to this day.
What's the vinyl for the people?
Vinyl is like almost like a big circular black, I don't know what the material is.
It's like a big disc,
like a big disc, essentially, isn't it? And vinyl, you typically had your people typically use vinyls and use them on vinyl players with the needle stick to play it and whatnot. But yeah, so we use those to DJ.
Wow, how would you do that?
So,
oh my god! So when I heard vinyl, I thought it was the when they go frickin'.
Yeah, it's those.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So we use those, and then there's the needle, but obviously it's a turntable.
Okay.
Not the vinyl players. Those needles are very very much flimsier than the turntables. Yeah, if you did it on those, you'd break it instantly. If you tried to scratch with the DJ turntables, they're a bit more rugged and rigid, and it's a lot of listening to the music and beat matching, and you've got a pitch controller on the side, so you can make the song fast or slower to then beat match with the other song, and you just have to do a lot of listening and mixing, and it's a lot of practice sort of makes perfect with vinyl mixing.
Yeah, okay.
And then from there we move on to CDs, so obviously the smaller CDs, in the CDJs they're called, the Pioneer, typically Pioneer decks in the clubs that use them, so CD players.
Was it ever sorry to cut you up, was it ever a cassette tape? Was that ever back in the thing in DJing?
Not DJing, no.
No, okay.
But when I was growing up, I used to use cassette tapes to record radio, tracks on radio and stuff, which was, very nostalgic.
Okay.
Really giving away my age, but...
It's fine. It's all fine.
But, yeah, from vinyls, we moved on to CDs. I used CDs for a while, so I'd have... Literally, with CDs, you can only fit maybe maximum 20 songs. So I had a wallet with about, 50 CDs. So I'd have to carry, my CD wallets with me to every set, flick through in between songs, find the next song, put it in the CD player, listen it, cue it in, and then play it. Yeah, but now it's all on, on my laptop. I can just type the song name, load it onto the decks, and then I'm good to go.
It's definitely convenient nowadays.
Very convenient now.
Okay, that's very cool. Influencers.
Yeah.
Who is your biggest influences in the DJing space, and how have they kind of shaped you into being a DJ that you are today, sort of thing? Like, who did you look up to and think, you know what, I want to take aspects from him, her, and put it into your own little mix? Yeah.
When I started DJing, I really loved garage music at the time. So my main influence there was DJ EZ.
Okay.
He's still like a hero of mine today. I saw him recently at Boiler Room Festival, and he's still as incredible as back in the day, back in the garage day. So he's definitely one. His technical ability on just the decks, and he's just incredible. DJ Jazzy Jeff's another one for like hip hop music and scratching, and another one in terms of hip hop is DJ Premier as well as a DJ producer. And then there's another, I don't know if I can name him now because he's not in the best of lights in terms of hip hop in the UK, but he was sort of like someone that I looked up to at the time as well in terms of hip hop. And then in terms of more of the African music space, African electronic music, it was Black Coffee. He's a very big influence of mine actually, and also led me to producing music, which is very recent, the music production side of things. But he's an incredible DJ, producer, has really put African electronic music on the map. He won the very first Grammy as an African DJ producer back last year, I think it was, for the best dance electronic album, which is really cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned you've started your producing career.
Yes.
How is that going for you? And like, what was kind of the motivation from transitioning? Obviously not transitioning, but doing DJing, producing, alongside DJing.
Yeah. So producing started for me in lockdown.
Okay.
And it's something I've always sort of wanted to do. So other influences in terms of music production, I'd say are Timbaland and Pharrell. They're two more of my heroes as well in terms of music production. They're the ones that tweaked my interest initially back in the noughties for how they put sounds together is just so unique to other producers in the game, and what they've done for hip hop and R&B and stuff as well. They tweaked my initial interest, but it was always a thing where I was just sort of procrastinating with it. And I remember my wife got me a MIDI controller, which is essentially a digital keyboard that connects to your computer that you producers typically produce with. She bought me that one Christmas. I think it was probably in 2018. It gathered dust. It gathered dust for about 2 years. We can cut that out. She'll have me up on that again. But it wasn't until lockdown, and a lot of things happened in lockdown on a personal level, which was really tough. Firstly, just before we went in, we lost our first daughter, my wife and I, called Larah. May she continue to rest in peace. Yeah, rest in peace. We lost her, and then literally a week after her funeral, we had the first lockdown here in the UK. So just my wife and I. Well, it was just my wife and I because all the family were around as she passed, and my wife's of Ugandan heritage, so we have a family thing that they do in their culture called I've forgotten the name now, but essentially what it was all the family would come to the house, stay at the house and be with us for the duration of the preparations for the funeral, etc. And once the funeral sort of happens, they'll stay for a little bit longer and then gradually sort of leave us to it. And it was just unique in that we had the funeral a week later, we were locked down, just my wife and I at home. And it was a really dark period for us. Went through a lot. All manner of thoughts came into my head of wanting to even exist anymore and that sort of thing. And I thank God for therapy, because it really helped the both of us. Just want to keep going, and we lent on each other a lot, and it was from there that we then got the motivation to just to try and elevate ourselves. She started her psychotherapy business. I then thought, okay, I'm going to do this producing now. for her, if anything, to support her love for music, my daughter's love for music, doing it for my wife as well, her wanting me to do it, years back by buying me the MIDI controller and whatnot. And at the same time, I set up a record label for her as well in my late daughter's honor called Larah Records. In the hope of the music that I do produce, releasing that through the label, eventually trying to grow the label and bring artists on, etc. as well. So, yeah, was determined to then learn to produce. I taught myself.
Okay.
YouTube is a great ally in doing that. Taught myself, and it wasn't until October of that year that I put out my first single, as it was, an instrumental. It was that I'ma Play single that I mentioned earlier. And then, it's been growing from strength to strength ever since.
Yeah, that's good. Do it for your daughter, innit?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was tough, but she's in a great place now. She's at peace. And essentially, she was born with a condition called a Dandy Walker malformation, which is essentially an impairment of part of her brain I was linked with motor coordination. So it was delayed. She had delayed motor coordination, and she had, and there was a condition within that called hydrocephalus. Because of that impairment in the brain, she had fluid built up in the brain as well. And we all build up fluid in our brains, but we can naturally drain that. But she couldn't, so she needed like a device called a shunt, which is essentially a device that goes sort of around here, and it drains the fluid. It's sort of under the skin. It drains it down into her stomach to be reabsorbed there. And they gave us all manner of they gave us a poor prognosis before she was born, saying that she wouldn't survive, etc. But we wanted to give her the chance to to live, and live she did. She had a great 2 years, 9 months with us. Developed like any normal child. She was slower in terms of the motor coordination, so she was delayed crawling and then walking. And then obviously it was a complication she had with a shunt, which then, sadly led to her leaving us. But we're grateful for the life we had with her, and we're grateful that we've now had our second daughter, who is just turned 2 and has so many elements her big sister has as well. And we're grateful for her life too.
Yeah, like I said, sorry to hear that, but I guess do everything for her.
That's it.
Whenever you're feeling down, just think of your daughter.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As you mentioned, you've been happily married.
Yes.
I saw on your Insta it was 7 years.
7 years on the 31st of July, yeah.
Yeah, how would you say your wife has supported you and kind of shaped you into the person that you are today?
That woman is... she's literally a godsend of my life. Like, she's my best friend. She's my soulmate. We've been together 13 years now. And, she's just really helped me become a man, I say. And I met her when I was a very young, excitable 20-something-year-old. And, we've just had a great life together. She's helped me develop as a DJ. I was a very shy person as well. You wouldn't think that being a DJ, but it's sort of like she calls it Sasha Fierce, just Beyonce's sort of alter ego of being calm. And then, when you're performing, you're another person. But she's been great, and she's been managing me for, most of my DJ career now, and now it's like, she's just been great.
Yeah, that's good. That's very wholesome.
Thank you.
Very, very wholesome. So I'm just way out of time. But what I tend to do is I have a set questions that I ask all my guests just to get a perspective and what their opinions are, and just to see what they say for the questions. First one is, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? And how would you use it to improve the world?
Any superpower?
Yeah. Try not to make it generic in the sense that, invisibility or strength or... Could be anything. But it has to impact the world, of course.
Yeah. Any superpower.
Yeah, I do kind of put my guests on.
Yeah,
spot,
yeah.
That's the whole point, though.
Yeah. It may sound corny, but my superpower would be to try and control minds.
Okay.
Is that generic?
Not really. Just how would
But
you use?
how I'd use that
Yeah.
is to control minds of people that can give to societies that need it, need it the most.
Yeah.
In particular with, sort of the work my wife's doing with her charity with the kids in Uganda. I'd really like to go to, control the minds of senior figures in big institutions, organizations with with surplus, resources of funds and finances, to make them aware of communities that are suffering. I mean, of course, there is organizations that are already doing that and already giving, but there's so much more that can be done because there's so much more suffering that goes on. But then there's so many mass amounts of resources and finances out there that are controlled by these superiors that don't want to essentially give and support communities that need them the most. So if I had a superpower, I would try and go into the minds of those people, make them aware of the situations that are going on, the people that could really benefit from their support.
Yeah, it's a very good one. Very good one. I definitely agree with that.
Thank you.
Aspiring DJs and music producers, what advice would you give them starting out on a similar journey to you to succeed in this, competitive industry?
Yeah. Well, first you got to do it for the right reasons. Do you have a passion for it, or are you just doing it for clout and just to try and be famous, as it were? You have to have a love for music, which I do, which is the forefront of my reason for doing it. And yeah, always work on improving your craft. Go to, try and find a mentor that you can shadow. Practice makes perfect. So always put the time in to practice over and over again. I'm still learning as a DJ to this day. And yeah, patience. And networking. Networking is very key.
Yeah, I could imagine in the DJing space.
Yeah.
Very big.
Yeah.
Another one. Who has had a significant impact in your life and why? Or who has had the most significant impact in your life and why?
I'd say my wife again.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's made me a better man. She's made me a better DJ, producer. She just changed my life for the better, I think. Yeah, I'd say my wife. She's incredible.
Good. Nice to hear. I should have told you this before because again, it's an on-the-spot question.
Yep.
What is one quote that you live by? So when you're feeling down, you don't want to DJ, or you're having a bad day, what is that one quote that you think, okay, yeah, it's going to get me off my ass today?
Yeah, life is too short.
Life is too short.
And my daughter is the definition of that for us.
Yeah.
Life is just too short, to hold grudges, to feel down. Yeah, I live by that.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't know when your next.
You literally don't.
Yeah.
You literally
and I don't think people actually, unless you've had a significant love other or someone that you love and care that has experienced that.
Yeah.
You don't really understand that tomorrow literally could be your last day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of us need to understand that fact.
Yeah.
Because I think that holds us back from doing a lot of things.
It does. It really does. And like I said, with the whole procrastination of, producing, it wasn't until that moment and that period of time that, just really kicked me into gear.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
My booklet is over there. Okay. So one thing I get my guests to do is they write a question
Right.
for you to answer.
Okay.
And then obviously you will do the same for my next guest.
Right. Okay.
So what is your end goal?
My end goal, is to leave a musical legacy that will be appreciated and enjoyed when I'm no longer here. I suppose. Yeah, I'd say
That's a very good one. Yeah, because I think it's, especially in the music industry, it's very, I don't want to say easy, but leaving a legacy, your music will always be there.
Yeah.
So people will always know DJ Larizzle, this is what he did, this is what he stood for. Yeah, I think that's a really good one.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that wraps it up, Larry. If you want to let the people know where they can find you, your sets, social media, everything.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram via @LaRizzleOfficial. I am Larizzle on Twitter, or X, I think they're calling it now. Larizzle.com is my official website, and you can find gig dates and everything else on there. And Spotify as well as Larizzle for music, Apple Music, all those platforms. Just search Larizzle.
Nice one. Larizzle, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed that episode. And guys, we will catch you on the next episode. Peace.
See you.